Welcome back to the show. We welcome back our friend and longtime educator Craig Douglas for this week's Educating Mid-Michigan segment. We're going to pick up where you and Cheryl left off last week, talking a little bit more about updates on the possible elimination of the U.S. Department of Education. It's certainly something to consider. It's making headlines. Quickly remind our viewers just some of the key functions of that department.
Yeah, it's a huge topic, huge challenge for me, to be honest with you, to try and condense it. But I kind of put it into two categories. One is the support and oversight that the Department of Ed offers local school districts and state boards. So there's an oversight and assistance, a support. And then the second is, of course, funding. Now, the two are not necessarily hand in hand, but they are pretty closely tied. And you're right, last week we kind of touched upon it, and since that time, Matt, to be honest with you, I've had emails, I've had text messages, I've had video clips. There's been a lot of ruckus. One writer called this a chaotic moment in education. I don't know if it's on that brink or not. I'm not one to judge that.
Right.
But the point is, there's been a huge disruption and a cause for a lot of concern. So I thought in today's segment I'd advise viewers that the Michigan Department of Ed puts out a bulletin. It's accessible on the web. It's called MDE Bulletin 1014. That sounds fancy schmancy, but it really isn't. It basically allows anyone to get a database of all the public schools in the state of Michigan. That's all the traditional public schools and all the public school academies or charter schools. So for this segment, I decided to look at Flint just as an example, and I was kind of blown away. Now, the data is 2 years old because it takes time for this to all get reported and calibrated. But in Flint schools, 2 school years ago, 51% of their budget was federal money.
And those percentages can vary depending on the needs of the school system.
It definitely will, and I'm going to say it's probably on the high side because of Flint being a larger district, urban. Also, remember, we had all the pandemic funds that were federal flow-through funds, so that's going to skew the data a little bit. But I put that out there as kind of a shock factor. This is not a small amount of money.
Right.
The state of Michigan gets a lot of federal money, and it flows through to local school districts, local governmental units, not just school districts. So this is a huge challenge for everyone involved in the educational process to how to mediate the funding flows.
There are a lot of what-ifs right now. How would this also impact programs like Head Start?
Yeah, last week I kind of omitted that, not on purpose, but when I was reflecting back on the programs I touched, I thought, geez, Head Start's very well known. It goes back to the Johnson administration. Let that soak in. And that was part of his war on poverty. And the purpose of Head Start is to allow preschool to be delivered to schools, to students that would be in poverty and would not have had preschool experiences otherwise. And I would just offer, if you have 2 students entering kindergarten, one that's had preschool and one that hasn't, the kid that has had preschool has a tremendous advantage.
Sure,
I think
research has shown that.
Oh yeah, research has shown that, and I think parents across the country would validate that. So if Head Start were to be impacted by this proposed elimination of the Department of Ed, that would be a huge impact on 3- and 4-year-olds across the country.
Well, and quickly, you've served in several different roles as an educator over the years, superintendent, what have you. What would be your initial gut reaction to a possible elimination? I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of planning to do.
Yeah, I would patch into all my networks. I would look at my state association, and I would look for guidance there in terms of what they're seeing, because they have liaisons in Washington, D.C. I would be in contact with my congressman, with both senators, to get a sense of what may be happening in Washington, D.C. The bottom line is I believe in our system of government, the 3 branches, the checks and balances, and I think things will get worked out. That's my opinion and my hope.
Sure.
But in the meantime, I think it's important for all of us, all the viewers, and all of us connected to stay informed and to watch and to read the tea leaves, if you will.
Yes, and that's what you're helping us do this morning. We appreciate that, and it is certainly something we'll stay on top of, and we appreciate your expertise and insight.
Well, may I say, you guys do a great job of reporting updates too, so thank you. Right back to you.
Well, listen, we're all along for the ride together, right? All right, another live look